This is the story of a prison called Shawshank. It's said to be the most secure prison in the world, locking up thousands of inmates. Not a single prisoner has ever escaped from here because the security is incredibly strict. Some have spent their entire lives behind these walls, never even dreaming of escape, because any attempt is met with death. The scene shifts to a courtroom. We see a man named Andy, a successful banker. The judge sentences him to life in prison for the murder of his wife and her lover. Andy insists he's innocent, but with no proof, his pleas fall on deaf ears. And so, he's sent to the world's most secure prison, Shawshank, to spend the rest of his days. Andy arrives with a busload of other new inmates. As they're brought in, the existing prisoners start a cruel little game, betting on which newcomer will be the first to break down and cry. The currency: cigarettes. One of the old-timers, an inmate named Red, places his bet on Andy. To Red, Andy looks innocent, weak, like someone who's never known a day of hardship. He's sure Andy will be the first to sob. That night, all the prisoners are locked in their cells. The old inmates begin shouting and taunting the newcomers, trying to scare them into tears. It works. One man breaks down, wailing and begging to go home. The guards arrive and order him to be quiet. When his cries don't stop, they drag him out of his cell and beat him unconscious. But through it all, Andy doesn't make a single sound. Red loses his bet, realizing with a jolt that this quiet banker is mentally tougher than he looks. The next morning, Red hands over a pack of cigarettes to the winner. Across the mess hall, Andy eats his breakfast in silence. There, he meets Brooks, the prison's oldest inmate, who has been locked up for nearly 50 years. Andy politely asks about the prison, its rules, and its people. Brooks shares the secrets of Shawshank and gives Andy a crucial piece of advice. If you ever need anything from the outside world, you go to a man named Red. Following this tip, Andy approaches Red directly. He's heard Red is the man who can get things. Red confirms it, with a condition: nothing that can be used for escaping or killing. Andy's request is simple: a rock hammer. Red immediately becomes suspicious. Is Andy planning to hurt someone? Andy assures him he has no enemies. Red scoffs at that, warning him that he may not have enemies now, but he soon will. He points to a menacing group of inmates, telling Andy to stay far away from them. A few days later, Red delivers the rock hammer to Andy, but when he sees it, he can't help but laugh. The hammer is tiny, almost a toy. Red thinks to himself that digging a tunnel out of Shawshank with this thing would take at least 600 years. He has Brooks deliver the small tool to Andy's cell. Time passes. One day, while Andy is working in the prison laundry, he's cornered by the very same inmates Red had warned him about. Andy tries to fight back, but he's no match for the three of them. They beat him brutally and assault him. This becomes a horrifying routine for 2 long years. Whenever they find Andy alone, they attack him. Then, an announcement is made. A crew is needed for roof repair work. A team is selected, including both Red and Andy. As the prisoners work, they're supervised by a notoriously strict guard named Hadley, known for his violent temper. While the inmates tar the roof, Hadley is complaining to his fellow guards. He has just inherited $35,000 from his deceased brother, but is furious that the government will take a huge chunk in taxes. Andy, the former banker, overhears this. He knows exactly how to legally avoid those taxes. He nervously walks over to Hadley and asks a simple question: "Do you trust your wife?" Hadley explodes with rage, grabbing Andy and dangling him over the edge of the roof, ready to throw him off. Thinking fast, Andy blurts out the solution. If Hadley trusts his wife, he can gift her the entire amount, tax-free. According to the law, a one-time gift to a spouse up to $60,000 is perfectly legal and requires no tax. Andy explains that a lawyer would charge a fortune for this advice, but he'll do all the paperwork for free. Hadley, intrigued, asks what Andy wants in return. Andy just smiles and says he wants nothing for himself. All he asks is for Hadley to buy 3 cold beers for each of his friends working on the roof. The next thing you know, the inmates are sitting on that roof, basking in the sun, drinking ice-cold beer like free men. It's clear Andy handled Hadley's tax problem perfectly. Andy himself doesn't drink. He just sits in a corner, watching his friends enjoy a small moment of freedom, a moment he created. Imagine this feeling. You're sitting on a rooftop, the sun on your face, drinking an ice-cold beer with your buddies. For most of us, that's just a nice afternoon. But for Andy and his fellow inmates, it was a moment of pure freedom, a taste of a life they thought they'd lost forever. It was a miracle, and Andy made it happen. This single act cemented his bond with Red, the man who could get anything from the outside. A few days later, during a movie night featuring the stunning Rita Hayworth, Andy approaches Red with a special request, a big poster of the actress. But as Andy steps out, his old tormentors, the sisters, corner him again. This time, Andy refuses to back down. He fights back with everything he has, but it's 3 against 1. They beat him brutally, leaving him in the prison hospital for a whole month. But in a strange twist of fate, justice is served. The lead attacker is visited in his cell by the same guard whose taxes Andy had saved. The guard beats the man so badly, he's paralyzed for life. When Andy finally returns to his cell, a welcome gift is waiting for him, a giant poster of Rita Hayworth, courtesy of his friend Red. Soon after, the warden himself comes to Andy's cell for a surprise inspection. He notices the poster and, surprisingly, lets Andy keep it. See, the warden had heard about Andy's financial genius. This wasn't a random inspection, it was a job interview. He even picks up Andy's Bible, flips through it, and hands it back, saying, "Salvation lies within." The next day, Andy is reassigned from the laundry to the prison library, officially becoming the warden's personal bookkeeper. In the library, Andy works alongside Brooks, an elderly inmate who has been there for 50 years. Andy's reputation as a financial wizard spreads among the guards, and soon, he's handling taxes and finances for the entire prison staff. The workload becomes so much that he gets to hire an assistant, and he chooses his best friend, Red. But then, something unexpected happens. Brooks, after 50 years inside, is granted parole. The news doesn't bring him joy, it terrifies him. The prison is all he knows. In a moment of desperation, he holds a knife to another inmate's throat, hoping to get his sentence extended. Andy manages to calm him down, but the system is relentless. Brooks is forced to leave. The outside world is a shock. After 5 decades, it's loud, fast, and alienating. He gets a small job but can't cope with the loneliness and the feeling of being obsolete. In a heartbreaking letter to his friends back in Shawshank, Brooks describes his pain. Unable to adjust, he takes his own life. His story leaves a deep scar on everyone in the prison. Meanwhile, the warden's corruption grows. He starts a work release program, using inmates as dirt cheap labor for outside construction projects. He undercuts local contractors, lines his own pockets with black money, and pays the prisoners nothing. And who does he get to launder all this illegal cash? Andy, of course. Andy creates a phantom identity, a man who doesn't exist, to hide the warden's dirty money. If the scheme is ever uncovered, the police would be chasing a ghost. Years pass, and a new inmate arrives. His name is Tommy, a young, charismatic thief who has been in and out of different prisons. He quickly befriends everyone, including Andy and Red. One day, while sharing stories, Tommy mentions his time at another prison. He talks about a cellmate. He once had a man who would brag about a crime he committed where a banker's wife and her lover were killed, and the banker, some guy named Dufresne, took the fall for it. Hearing this, Andy's world stops. After all these years, a flicker of hope. He finally has proof of his innocence. He has a witness. The key to his freedom has just walked through the prison gates. Tommy agrees he should stop stealing. He then asks Red about Andy, Tommy thinks Andy seems really smart and like a good guy. So, what's he doing in prison? Red explains that Andy was a big-shot banker who murdered his wife and her lover, earning him a life sentence. Hearing this, Tommy goes quiet, like a switch was flipped in his memory. He calls out to Andy. A moment later, Andy and Red are standing in front of Tommy. Tommy tells them that 4 years ago, in another prison, he met an inmate who confessed to a robbery. During the heist, the homeowner woke up, and in a panic, the robber killed him and the woman he was with. The robber later found out they weren't married. They were lovers, and the woman was the wife of a wealthy banker. Shortly after, Tommy read in the papers that the police had arrested that same banker for the murders. It dawns on everyone. Andy is innocent, full of hope, and he goes straight to the warden and tells him everything. But the warden flatly refuses to believe him. Why? Because Andy is the one who launders all his dirty money, and he knows all the warden's dark secrets. If Andy gets out, the warden loses his cash cow and risks being exposed. He dismisses Andy's story as a lie, saying he hears tales like that every day. Andy pleads, promising that even if he's freed, he'll keep the warden's secrets safe. But the warden won't budge, and he explodes with fury. After everything he's done for this corrupt man, he still won't help an innocent person walk free. He screams at the warden, who immediately sends him to solitary confinement for a month. Next, the warden finds Tommy. He asks him if the story he told Andy was true. Tommy confirms every word. "Would you testify in court?" the warden asks. "Yes, I'm ready," Tommy says. The instant those words leave his mouth, the warden signals a guard, who shoots Tommy dead. Later, the warden goes to Andy's solitary cell and tells him Tommy tried to escape and had to be shot. But Andy knows the truth. He understands the pure evil of the man he's been working for. He tells the warden he'll never work for him again. The warden just smirks and says Andy has no choice, or he'll make his life a living hell. As he leaves, he orders the guards to keep Andy in solitary for another month. That's the full months in a terrifying, pitch-black room. The whole prison learns what happened, and a wave of sadness washes over them, knowing Andy is suffering for a crime he didn't commit. When Andy finally gets out, he looks drained. Red meets him in the yard. Andy asks Red if he thinks he'll ever get out of prison. Red says yes, but probably only when he's too old to remember his own name. Andy then starts talking about escaping to Mexico. He describes a beautiful place by the sea, a place to find peace. He says he'll open a little restaurant and fix up a boat on the beach. He'll need a good handyman, he says, looking right at Red. But Red just shakes his head. Hope is a dangerous thing, he warns. It can drive a man insane. He tells Andy to face reality. Mexico is a world away. As Red starts to walk away, Andy stops him. He makes Red promise him something. If Red ever gets out, he has to do one thing for him. Red agrees. Andy gives him directions to a big field with a beautiful oak tree. It's where he proposed to his wife. Under that tree, hidden in a stone wall, Red will find a black rock. Under the rock, there's a box. He tells Red to find it when he's released. Later that day, Andy goes to the warden's office, finishes his work, and puts all the documents into the warden's special safe. The warden hands Andy his suit and tells him to get it pressed and shine his shoes until they gleam like glass. Andy takes them and returns to his cell. That night, Red can't sleep. He's worried Andy might do something to himself. The next morning, all the cell doors clang open, and the inmates stream out for roll call. All except one. For the first time in 20 years, Andy isn't there. Red's heart sinks. He's sure Andy has taken his own life. A guard storms over to Andy's cell, furious. He swings the door open and freezes in shock. Andy is gone. At that exact moment, the warden is getting dressed. He reaches for his shoes but finds Andy's old, worn-out pair instead. Suddenly, the prison sirens wail. An inmate has escaped. The warden sprints to Andy's cell. He orders the guards to bring Red, Andy's closest friend. "Where is he?" The warden yells. Red has no idea. Enraged, the warden grabs a small rock from Andy's chess set and throws it at the poster of a movie star on the wall. But the rock doesn't bounce off, it punches right through. The warden rips the poster away, revealing a massive tunnel. Everyone is stunned. The walls were thought to be impenetrable, but Andy did the impossible. Guards follow the tunnel to its exit point. There, they find Andy's prison clothes and the small rock hammer he asked Red for 20 years ago. He had chipped away at that wall, night after night, for 2 decades, so carefully that no one ever suspected a thing. He'd been hiding the dust and debris in his pockets and sprinkling it around the prison yard. On his last day working for the warden, Andy had swapped the financial ledgers for a Bible in the safe. He wore the warden's freshly pressed suit and polished shoes under his own prison uniform. That night, he crawled through his tunnel, broke through a sewer pipe, and waded through nearly 2 kilometers of filth to freedom. The next morning, Andy, using a fake identity he created, walks into several banks. Sometime later, Red is finally granted parole. He gets a small apartment and a job bagging groceries, but he can't adjust to life on the outside, just like his old friend Brooks. He even considers ending it all, but then he remembers his promise to Andy. He travels to the field Andy described. He finds the oak tree, the stone wall, and the black rock. Underneath, he discovers a box with cash and a letter. The letter says Andy is waiting for him in that little town by the sea in Mexico. It ends with the words, "Hope is a good thing, Red. Maybe the best of things." Red crosses the border and makes his way to the coast. As he walks onto the beach, he sees a familiar figure sanding an old boat. It's Andy, living the exact dream he described in the prison yard, the dream Red once called dangerous. They see each other, smile, and walk towards one another. They hug on that sunny beach, 2 old friends, finally free. If you enjoyed this recap, please subscribe to our channel and give this video a thumbs up. Thanks for watching.